Hey folks, Twisha Christian here. Today I want to bring you some prophetic words concerning the US dollar and inflation. And I need you guys to really pay close attention to what's coming down the line. A lot of us that are involved in the wealth transfer, we've been putting ourselves in a position for this moment. But not everybody is doing that. And not everybody is listening. And not just looking at the prophetic, but just looking at the numbers and what's happening with our economy and our stock market. Things are going to get really, really bad. And that's one of the reasons why we have been preparing ourselves. Before we get into that, folks, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just bringing and sharing information and giving you my thoughts and my opinions on that information. And if you guys like these videos that I make, the support links are down below in the description, in the About YouTube section, the Patreon, PayPal, and so on. Now, folks, we know that the wealth transfer has begun, and we're seeing all these events taking place and other events taking shape and form. And when Kim Clement said, when things seem at their worst, when he prophesied that, that's what that prophecy meant, when things seem at their worst. And I have this news article here. White House expects inflation will substantially increase in the coming months. That was on March 10th, 2022. Many of you know already that they had the inflation numbers that came out on the 10th. So what does this show me? Price increases are coming substantially. U.S. inflation hit fresh 40-year high of 7.9% before the oil spike. You hear that, folks? Before the oil spike. So when oil jumped up, and now everybody's complaining about the gas prices back in late February, in this month, all those numbers that they didn't include will be included in the next release of the inflation numbers. And I expect it to jump up dramatically, maybe by 2 or even 3 points. If you look at the point in January, that's when the office of the presidency and everything else changed within Congress. And inflation was at about 1.4%. Now, Biden's policies wouldn't have taken shape and form until the March inflation numbers, which it went up by 1.2% from the day that he took office. And then now you can see it. It's just gone up dramatically. And then we have the 7.9%. That's not shown on this chart. So there's a steady increase. So I'm looking at this, and that's what stuck out to me before the oil spike. So right here I have the schedule of releases for the Consumer Price Index. And we saw on March 10th, they released the last one where we saw 7.9%. And the next one comes on April the 12th, 2022. That is the one that's going to include the price increases in the oil and the energy and everything else. And if the White House is saying it's going to be raised substantially, I mean, is he talking about 2% more, 3% more, 5% more? If it jumps dramatically, that's probably going to have an impact on the markets. Right, so I'm getting ready to share the prophetic word about what's coming for the US dollar and inflation. The YouTube is Dreaming with the King, and her name is Catherine. If I share a channel with you guys, make sure you go to subscribe so that way you don't miss anything and you can help me not miss anything. So the video we're getting ready to listen to came out on February the 1st, 2022. Prophetic Dream. What is coming for the dollar and the nation's money system?
Hi, happy February. It's a new month, and the Lord has released me to share a revelation that He gave me this past month concerning money in the nation. And what He showed me actually was through a dream. I've been seeking Him and asking Him what He has for the coming year for our nation. And in this dream, He showed me that the dollar went down to 51% of its worth, and then pretty quickly after that it fell down to the number 13 value. And in the Bible, we know the number 13 symbolically can represent the number of death or the number of rebellion. So I wanted to release this revelation that He gave me. He did not give me a timeline, but I do believe that it is coming, that the dollar will rebel and that the money system will rebel. And so I want to release this to encourage you to seek the Lord and ask Him what you can do with your finances. He may say, leave it where it's at, keep it, or direct you to do something with it to protect it. And I want to encourage you, if you can, to go back to a video I posted last year that the Lord gave me about realignment and repositioning of the remnant. And in that word, the Lord shared that during the coming shaking, which will include financial shaking, even more than we've seen, there will actually be supernatural provision and protection for his people who are walking in alignment with him. So there's no need to fear. Just get before the Lord and ask him, what should I do with my finances in this season? I know that you are protecting me and leading me, and you will give me direction and revelation on if there's something I need to do, and I trust you, Lord. So, Lord, I just lift up all who are listening. I thank you that you're leading them regarding their finances, and that you will give them specific instruction, and the peace of God will rule in their hearts because Christ Jesus dwells in them. And I bless them today, and we just say no to fear and say yes to trusting you with childlike faith and expectation. In Jesus' name.
All right, folks, so you heard that prophetic word concerning the dollar, that it would lose 51% of its value and then down to 13%. When you translate that, that is that the dollar will lose 87% of its value. It's one of the things that we've been preparing for this moment, folks. We take all the prophetic and we put it all together and put all the pieces together. When Kim Clement said, when things seem at their worst, that's what it really means. Can you imagine like how gas prices and how food prices and energy costs and everything else? Could you imagine trying to pay your bills at a time when the dollar has lost 87% of its value? And she said the money system rebellion, the rebel, to number 13. And any time, folks, that when you change over from one financial system to another, the old system is trying to hold on as long as it can. And there's just been this huge battle that's been taking place for a new financial system, because the system that we're under does not work. I believe that we're going to see it, and we're going to see it happen rapidly. So that's why we are positioning ourselves for the wealth transfer, looking at all the prophetic dreams and visions and words concerning the wealth transfer and putting ourselves into position. Now, she said in another video about talking about the financial shaking, and that during this time period, there will be a supernatural provision for those who walk with them. And we know a lot of people aren't involved in the wealth transfer, and a lot of those people are going to have to definitely be reliant on God, but that's where we come in with the wealth transfer. When all these different wealth transfers begin to take place, it's not just about being wealthy, but it's about advancing God's kingdom and doing what he wants us to do and providing provision. That's when he talked about the dinar, provision for the world, for his people. So then she talked about praying and making sure, like, okay, where do you want us to put our money? I've talked about how low some of the prophetic words concerning how low the Dow will go. And one of them I shared was 6,677. But I'm getting ready to show you another one that's even lower than that. God is definitely trying to get us to a place of preparation for the wealth transfer and for bad times. So that's definitely something that we need to pray about. The dollar that is in your bank account, it's going to be worth 87% less. So folks, I don't know exactly how all this is going to come. I don't know what the April report is going to say, but I think in the week leading up to that, I believe that if you start to see volatility, there might be some problems on the day of that release and coming after. For all we know, it could result in a short market explosion where it just takes off and then eventually it's going to start coming down. And there's been so many prophetic words just concerning the Dow itself that we're going to see that eventually. That's why in the other vision that I shared about the bull from one of the Patreon members, and that's why you have to be careful about these bull runs. I believe that some are going to be fake bull runs, and then I think we're going to have maybe time periods where the bull is running, but it's not going to run very far. So now I'm going to go ahead and share a prophetic word from Christopher Harris. And just to show you guys how low the Dow could be going from the previous number the information that I was researching. And of course I came across another one which could be even lower than the previous 6,677. November 13th, In the dream, I was outside in what looked like a cafe type setting, and I saw a laptop open with two people next to it, and they were drawing in close and pointing out the screen. I saw something stock related going around 5600. The two men were remarking, and they seemed worried about the severe dip in the stock market. And I saw some red drops on a chart that was something to do with the market, but it seemed like it hadn't been that long since it was going down. It wasn't completed yet. And I took over the mouse as I wanted to check crypto prices. It was on TradingView. And I saw BTC at 44,000. And then I thought to look at Redcoin, and it was 89 cents. So folks, with the Dow being around 5,600, what do you think is going to be happening to the US dollar around that time? And around that time, the Dow being at 5,600, companies and investors are going to lose so much money. It's going to be absolutely insane during that time period. But BTC was at 44,000 and Redcoin at 89 cents. And the current price of Redcoin right now is 0.00098. That's super cheap. And knowing that it's at 89 cents, be wise to go ahead and get some Redcoin. Not a financial advisor, but I'm just sharing what's being shown in the prophetic. And I have one more to show you, folks. Pay attention. This is from Christopher Harris on the 17th of June, 2020, where I saw 4 steps written down. The first 2 I couldn't make out, but the third was 10 trillion taxpayer bailout. The 4th step was hyperinflation. I believe the dream was about the USA and was economic related. I believe that the bigger taxpayer bailouts are coming, and after this is hyperinflation. God bless you, Christopher. If we jump within a short period of time from the value of the dollar of where it stood at in February, and it drops and lose 87% of its value, 13 cents on the dollar, that would be considered hyperinflation. So that means also you're going to hear that they're going to try to do a 10 trillion taxpayer bailout. When you see that, you know hyperinflation is going to occur. Who knows how long it's going to take to get to 51% loss of the value of the dollar. So keep those in mind. I mean, I don't know what they would, in the heck they would do with $10 trillion, but that's just absolutely insane, knowing that our country, just the government alone, doesn't include private debt or doesn't include company debt. $30 trillion this country is in debt to the central banking system. I think these times are coming, and I think as long as that we keep doing to prepare ourselves in the wealth transfer, getting involved in those wealth transfer prophetic investments, and preparing ourselves for the cost of food and gas and energy and all these other things going up. You know, as long as we're doing those things, right, and following what we believe what God is saying, then we have our provision. And then we're able to share our provision with others in the time of need. And I know that not everybody is in the same financial position. You might live in an apartment, you know, where you can't really store a lot of stuff. That's something that you need to pray about. And so if cryptocurrency is going to be doing really well during that point, then for me, and that's what I need to focus on. And that's why I think there's this big push with all these companies, right, to accept cryptocurrency. See, while people that are holding on to the dollar are going to be having a harder time than people who are invested in cryptocurrency. And I'm just going to share a few things about what you can do now to fight inflation in your situation. So first of all, you have to look at your budget. What are you budgeting for? Are there things that you can cut out of your budget that's going to help you fight inflation right now? Right? When it comes to food, and I've shared this many times, buy what's on sale or wait for it to go on sale. When I talk about storing up meat, you know, the only meat that I buy, see, I don't buy steaks and all that stuff. I just buy hamburger meat and chicken, and that's it. When I see chicken on sale, I buy it, stick it in the freezer. You know, talk to the people that are in the meat department at your stores. You know, when do the trucks come in? What is their policy on discounting meat? And think about foods that you might need that's going to last you 2 to 3 months if for some reason you can't get some of the other things in the grocery store. And it's just like your gas. There's not too much that you can do about it, except to try to fill up every time your gas tank hits the halfway mark. With all this talk about oil relief and stuff and getting oil from other countries, we don't know if we're going to get that yet. That's where the golden oil from Kevin's prophetic word, maybe at some point. And then looking at your energy cost, running your heat, your air, making sure the things that you're not using, that they're not plugged in. Because, items that are plugged in still use energy. I'm pretty sure most of you have a toaster. And is that toaster plugged in, and how often do you use it enough to justify to keeping it plugged in? And there's just a lot of little things that you can do to help reduce some of your cost to fight inflation. That way you have more money in your pocket for the things that you need, right? And the other way you can fight inflation is not to buy things you don't need. Do you really need a new TV? Do you really need a PS5? Do you really need new furniture at this point? If it's a necessity, then that's understandable. But we're in the time of the wealth transfer, and things are not going to be good in this country. Prepare yourself in every way that you can think of. Because, folks, this is serious. This is coming. We've been talking about this for years. Listening to Johnny, listening to him before I started making videos, listening to him for years. It's here. And people who are asking, when is all this going to happen? It's happening now. We have to get through some bad to get to the good. So that way, when it gets really bad, we can be there for those people who are going to need help. So that's just about all I have for today, folks. A possible new low of the Dow of 5,600. It could be the NASDAQ, but either way, whether it was the NASDAQ or the Dow, that's still pretty low for both of them at this point. So that's something else that shows us that things are going to be really bad. And for a lot of people, it's going to feel like when things seem at their worst. But as long as you're prepared and you've been listening, you shouldn't have that fear. You believe and trust God. And everybody else that's out there that doesn't know these things that are coming, they're going to have a lot of fear. And they're going to need you to help them get through these hard times and deal with this thing with fear. Because we know the end. So it's easy to comfort somebody and tell them that, look, I know everything's bad right now. Don't freak out. God said that these things were going to happen, and we have to get through these rough times to get to the blessing. Thank you guys for listening. God bless. TC out.